in the dark shadows, in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read the ancient tomes, the order Abracast. We are the brave and bold.
Stigmata Studios presents The Jinn Jihad. The Jinn Jihad kicks your face with myths, mysteries, epic battles, suicide bombers, quirky characters, and divine power armor. In this epic graphic novel, the warrior archangels descend on a city in chaos. It's all-out war. The non-standard assembly battles an ancient terrorist organization and their ultimate weapon, a corrupted, magically enhanced, unstoppable monster, the Jinn. This graphic novel is a wild ride. It's one part distant Arab myth, one part Old Testament angelic vengeance, and one part unique heroic tough guys. Available on Amazon. Get more info on the Jinn Jihad and other titles at stigmatastudios.com.
Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. The study of this book is forbidden. It is wise to destroy this copy after the first reading. Whosoever disregards this does so at his own risk and peril. These are the most dire. Those who discuss the contents of this book are to be shunned by all as its centers of pestilence. All questions of the law are to be decided only by appeal to my writings, each for himself. There is no law beyond do what thou wilt. Love is the law, love under will. The priest of princes, Ankh F Un Ka Ansu. That's the comment at the end of the Book of the Law, which we're gonna get into right now. Woo!
The Abracast. Occult. History. Conspiracy. Violence.
I should have went pee before I pressed the button. I'm John. This is the Abracast. I want to thank you guys for stopping in. I'm honored that you take the time to check out the show. I got a great episode for you, something that I've been raring to do for a while. So before we get into all this stuff, let me remind everybody to rate and review the show on iTunes, pretty please. Also would like to remind you that I launched a Patreon account. Doesn't seem to be much doing over there. The first goal that I have set up is I want to get a Books for Soldiers thing lined up. I have 2 websites I'm partnered up with that I have the ability to do, but I needed some help to pay and to get some books and some shipping cost and a P.O. box and all that stuff. So my goal, really, I want something that we could do together as a community to get some books to these soldiers who are overseas. So that's it. Please remember to subscribe wherever you're listening to the show at. During the moving day project, I did lose my subscribers on Google Play. So I hope that you guys found me back. If not, keep searching. I will will it, and it will happen. Just to let you guys know, if you listen to iHeartRadio, the show is now available on iHeartRadio. I don't know exactly what you got to do to search it, but my wife found it, so it's pretty easy. You can also find us now on Spreaker, and Spreaker wraps up the shows and puts them on YouTube, like right after I post them. So if you guys like to listen to content on YouTube, you can find the whole backlog now is there. All the stuff that's on the podcast is on the YouTubes, so you can find me there. You go to stigmatastudios.com or just abercast.com now. And you can find all the great places where you can find our shows. I'm still trying to get Spotify back online. Spotify's still pointed to the old RSS feed somehow. I've been tweeting with those guys trying to get it sorted out. Patreon, I already mentioned that. Sigma Studios. Okay, so this is the first episode and what's going to wind up being a series of episodes. And it's going to be, I think, 3 episodes, and each episode's going to tackle a chapter of this infamous book called The Book of the Law, written by Aleister Crowley in 1904. Sorry about that. Jeez. Woof. As I mentioned many, many times on the show, we struggle to add context to this stuff. That gets thrown around elsewhere. If you listen to another podcast, you listen to a video on YouTube and they mention like the Book of the Law. So this has kind of been in the schedule for a while to do. So I thought this would be a great time just to do it. Let's just get to this little gem and get to it. So, there is a few ground rules that I got to set up though. It's like, I think my cat comes in here when I'm not here and fucks all of my stuff up. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to limit our talk about Crowley. We're only going to be talking about what will help us understand this book. Because we have all heard the stories and so forth about Aleister Crowley, the wickedest man alive, the beast, Baphomet, summoning demons on Loch Ness, and doing sex magic rites in the pyramids at Giza, and evoking demons into himself, and all that other stuff. So the other problem is Crowley is such a legendary figure. There's a spectrum of opinions and facts and, consensi about Crowley. And they're all kind tied to these Judeo-Christian morals. The different stories and takes on him, from the wickedest man in history, who is some sort of cosmic Bond villain type, who's created a religion and a legacy that secretly rules over the world, to Mike Paseo's take that was just this hapless messenger of some sort of love religion. This is a view I do not agree with at all. I'm actually going to talk a little bit about that later. So for these, it's just too much, really. I don't want to do an episode to try to hash out the personality of Aleister Crowley. What I want to do instead is focus on the work and focus on his work. And this, we're starting here at this Book of the Law. This is actually not where we're starting with Crowley, but I'll get to that in a second. If you want a primer, or after this episode is over, you're like sitting there and you're like, what is this motherfucker talking about? I would say just going back to a few of our previous episodes, the magnum opus of alchemy, the Age of Aquarius / the Aeon of Horus is a good one. It's going to be directly related to these episodes that we're doing on the Book of the Law. The Babylon Working, with one of Crowley's acolytes, the jet propulsion, one of the fathers of American jet propulsion, Jack Parsons, and a pre-Scientology L. Ron Hubbard with his jaunty cap. Gangbanging some woman they think is an elemental that's going to bring about the Aeon of Horus. So that's obviously, is going to factor into this, the story of this book as well. You might also want to check out Harpocrates Rising in the Masonic 47th Problem of Euclid. This character, Harpocrates, pops up in the weirdest places on the show. Weirdest places. And if you still want even more than that, the Goetia, check out the Lesser Key of Solomon episodes. There's 3 of them, and they're really fun. So what's this Book of the Law? The Liber El Vel Legis. Anyways, that's where we're starting tonight. Oh man, we're going fast. We're ripping right into it. The religion known as Thelema was established with the writing of the Book of the Law. It was written or received by Aleister Crowley in Cairo, Egypt in the year 1904. It contains 3 chapters, each of which was written down in 1 hour beginning at noon on April 8th, 9th, and 10th. Crowley claimed that the author was an entity named Iowas, whom he later identified as his own holy guardian angel. The teachings with this small book are clearly expressed in the law of Thelema, expressed by these 2 phrases. 1. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. 2. Love is the law, love under will. The interpretation of this book is considered a matter for the individual, and openly promoting personal ideas about the meaning is strongly discouraged. Although Crowley expressed the desire to see the law of Thelema promulgated in all areas of society, the success in this endeavor is to be based on others willfully following the good example of Thelemites rather than an evangelization or direct attempt to convert others. Success is thy proof. Argue not, convert not, talk not over much. Well, I'm not going to be promoting my personal ideas of the book. I'm just going to be talking about the book. I am probably going to talk over much about it. I'm looking at least 3 hours, so don't get too mad at me out there, Thelemites. Oh. Okay. So who is Iowas? It is impossible to discuss Iowas without referring to the Book of the Law, for it is through that work that we learn the nature of Iowas. It is certain that Liber A.L. is written in a style wholly uncharacteristic of Crowley. Careful study of the work has revealed that it is filled with many Kabbalistic keys and other mysteries, many of which are still unsolved today. These puzzles accompanied with the hurried pace of Crowley's pen, make it almost certain that this work comes from some form of higher intelligence communicating the message of the new Aeon through Crowley. The intelligence is Iowas. Iowas claims to be the minister of Hur-Par-Krat. And who is Hur-Par-Krat? Who is it? Hur-Par-Krat. Ease. Hur-Par-Krat. Ease. Hur-Par-Krat. Ease. I think you see where I'm coming from. Hur-Par-Krat, the god of ancient Egyptians known as Harpocrates. Harpocrates is a form of the god Horus, depicted as an innocent child. His mother is Nuit in Liber Al, or Liber Al. I believe it's Liber Al. The attribution further emphasizes the role of Iowas in delivering the word of the crowned and conquering child. Who is Nuit, then? The main speaker of this chapter, the Egyptian sky goddess, who speaks through Iowas. You're going to find another character. I'm just going to get through the characters now, so I don't have to stop and do it later. Who is Ra-Hur-Kuit? Ra-Hur-Kuit. Ra-Hur-Kuit. It's a manifestation of Horus, different than Harpocrates, who is Harpocrates is the crowned and conquering child version of Horus. Ra-Hur-Kuit is Horus, who is the god of war and vengeance. So who then is Huru-Ra-Ha? Huru-Ra-Ha is the combination god of both aspects of Horus, the crowned and conquering child, Hur-Par-Krat, or Harpocrates, and the god of war and vengeance, Ra-Hur-Kuit. So we need to also know who is Ankh-Af-Na-Khonsu. Ankh-Af-Na-Khonsu is also the magical name used by Aleister Crowley to sign the comment of the Book of the Law, which was the Cold Open. And when referring to himself as the prophet of Thelema in the Aeon of Horus, Crowley claimed that he was a reincarnation of an Egyptian priest. As it says in Liber Legis, quote, "My scribe, Ankh-Af-Na-Khonsu, Ankh-Af-Na-Khonsu, the priest of princes, shall not in one letter change this book, but lest there be folly, he shall comment thereupon by the wisdom of Ra-Hur-Kuit." One other thing we need to ask ourselves before we wade into this thing is, what is Hadet? The Hadet, or Had, as we're going to see it used as well. Had. What is Hadet, or Had, is the Thelemic version of chaos. In Chapter 2, it's going to represent a universal kinetic principle or field. So let's get into this thing, shall we? Hold on. Yes, we shall. Go ahead. The Book of the Law, Liber Al Vel Legis, Subfigura, CCXX. Had, the manifestation of Nuit. The unveiling of the company of heaven. Every man and every woman is a star. Each number is infinite. There is no difference. Help me, O warrior lord of thieves, in my unveiling before the children of men. Be thou had it, my secret center and my heart and my tongue. Behold, it is revealed by Iowas, the minister of Hur-Par-Krat. The Kahabs is in the Kuhu, and not the Kuhu in the Kahabs. So this sounds like a bit of gibberish, but what he's saying or I should say, sorry, what Iowas is saying. The Kahabs is the consciousness of one's real individuality, and the Ku is the active conscious personality. So saying Kahab is in the Kuhu, not Kuhu is in the Kahab, is stating that the divine is not outside of man, but part of the personality of each individual human. So he goes on and he says, worship when the Kahabs, and behold, my light shed over you. So a couple verses up, where he says every man and woman is a star. The Kahab is the star that sheds the light. Let my servants be few in secret, and they shall rule the many in the known. These are fools that men adore. Both their gods and their men are fools. Come forth, O children, under the stars, and take your fill of love. Kahab is the star. Every man and woman is a star. They have the light of their stars are over their children. I am above you and in you, and my ecstasy is in yours. My joy is to see your joy. Above the gay-mead azure is naked splendor of Nuit. She bends in ecstasy to kiss the secret ardors of Hadat. Ardors is just a way to say enthusiastic passion. That's the Hadat. I said before, how did I define it before? It's the Thelemic version of chaos, a universal kinetic principle. We can also see here, it's kind of like, because of the Kabbalistic portions of this, it could be a version of chaos, the hidden Sephiroth within the Kabbalistic tree of life, the Sephiroth called Doth, Daath. So we're being introduced to Nuit right now, who's the female sky goddess. The winged globe, the starry blue, are mine, O Ankh Afna Kusu. Now we shall know that the chosen priest and apostle of infinite space is the Prince Peast, the beast, and his woman called the Scarlet Woman is all power given. And they shall gather my children into the fold, and shall bring the glory of the stars into the hearts of men. Iowas and Crowley, whatever, they're talking about Crowley right now. Ankh Afna Kunsu, and the priest prince, the beast, and his woman called the Scarlet Woman. He was married to a woman at this time who was around apparently when he's being dictated to or transmitted the information that 1 hour a day for those 3 days. For he is ever a sun and she a moon. But it is to him the winged secret flame, and to her the stooping starlight. So see, we're looking here at a unification of opposites. Winged flame and stooping starlight. The flame's going up, the starlight's coming down, meeting. This is they call it a unicursal pentagram. But we are not so chosen. Burn upon their brows, O splendorous serpent. Serpent is a creature of the ground, of the earth. It crawls and slithers. O azure-lidded woman, bend upon them. Azure-lidded woman, Nuit is a sky goddess. Again, this is just another way of saying the winged secret flame, and to her the stooping starlight. The key of these rituals is in the secret word of which I have given to him. With the god and the adorer, I am nothing. They do not see me. They are as upon earth. I am heaven. And there is no other god than me, and my Lord Hadet. Now, therefore, I am known to ye by my name Nuit. She's the main voice in this one. I think I cover that just in case in this chapter. Each chapter is different. This one's her chapter. And to him by a secret name which I will give him when at last he knoweth me, since I am infinite space and infinite stars thereof. Do ye also thus bind nothing? Let there be no difference made among you between any one thing and any other thing, for thereby there cometh hurt. So she's starting to set up this idea that we're going to get into real soon. The 0 equals 2 idea. I'll explain it. Let me just reread this, just so you can see, because it's actually like the big point of this chapter. And she's starting to set up the math here. Well, therefore, I am known to ye by my name Nuit, and to him by a secret name, which I will give him when at last he knoweth me. Since I am infinite space and the infinite stars thereof, do ye also thus bind nothing. Let there be no difference made among you between any other thing, or any one thing and any other thing, for thereby there cometh hurt. But whoso availeth in this, let him be the chief of all. I am Nuit. My word is 6 and 50. Divide, add, multiply, and understand. Then saith the prophet and the slave of the beauteous ones, who am I, and what shall be the sign? So she answered him, bending down the lambent flame of blue, all touching, all penetrant. Her lovely hands upon the black earth, and her lithe body arched for love, and her soft feet not hurting the little flowers, thou knowest. And the sign shall be my ecstasy, my consciousness of the continuity of existence, the omnipresence of my body. All right, here we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it right here. Then the priest answered and said unto the queen of space, kissing her loving brow, and the dew on her light bathing his soul, or his whole body, in a sweet-smelling perfume of sweat. O Nuit, continuous one of heaven, let it be ever thus, that men speak not of thee as one, but as none. And let them speak not of thee at all, since thou art continuous. All right, I gotta switch up here. Okay, so what they're talking about is this 0 equals 2. This is the basic shorthand for the metaphysics of the Thelemic universe. The dial is 0 and 2. And as the book says, let them speak not of thee at all. The text is saying that there is a continuum, an undifferentiated, non-dual existence. That is the Force, I guess. No, don't scratch that. It's not the Force. The Force has a light side and a dark side. So, okay, let's do something real world. This would be the pleroma of Gnosticism. We have spoken about this on the show, the wholeness of the home of Sophia. Crowley would say about 0 later in this very book that, quote, which neither is silent nor speaks, rejoices therein, unquote. So that's the 0. The 0 is this quantum continuum, this everything and nothing. This, it's silent nor it speaks. And what's the 2? Well, the 2 deals with these dualities of the physical universe. This reminds me of Crowley. The function of alchemy is to combine the opposites, and those are the 2. The light and the dark, the pain and the pleasure, the hot and the cold. And the topic we're going to get into in a little bit, the good and the bad. So back to the book here. None breathed the light faint and fair of the stars and two. For I am divided for love's sake and the chance of union. That's important. This is the creation of the world, that of the pain of division is nothing, and the joy of dissolution all. So, this sounds pretty heavy metal. Crowley writes in a... Hold on. Crowley writes in another book, another text called De Legi Libellum, quote, understand now that in yourselves is a certain discontent. Analyze well its nature, and the end is in every case one conclusion. The ill springs from the belief in two things, the self and the not self, and the conflict between them. This also is a restriction of the will. He who is sick in conflict with his own body, he who is poor at odds with society, and so for the rest. Ultimately, therefore, the problem is how to destroy this perception of duality and attain the apprehension of unity. Since we live in this divided world, split and splintered, our only solution is to attain unity, not to patch up original sin or not to restore Sophia to her place. But the universe was split in order for us to find the joy of dissolving the two into the zero. The ecstasy of oblivion is what he's talking about. For these fools of... Oh, sorry, back to the book. For these fools of men and their woes, care not thou at all? They feel little in what is balanced by weak joys, but ye are my chosen one. So I think what he's saying here is he's saying that people... the foolish men care not about this disillusion of all. They don't care about turning the two into zero. They're finding some sort of false balance within the two rather than going to the continuum, the zero. Obey my prophet, fall out the ordeals of my knowledge and seek me only. Then the joys of my love will redeem ye from all pain. This is so. Remember, without the duality, there is zero. It's the release of all pain. The division is a small price to pay. Back to the book. This is so. I swear it by the vault of my body and my sacred heart and tongue, and by all I can give, and by all I can desire of ye all. Then the priest fell into a deep trance or swoon, and said unto the Queen of Heaven, write unto us the ordeals, write unto us the rituals, and write unto us the law. But she said, the ordeals I will not write, and the ritual shall be half known and half concealed, but the law is for all. This that thou writest is the threefold book of law. The scribe Ankh Afna Kunsu, the priest of princes, shall not in one letter change this book, but lest be the folly, he shall comment thereupon by the wisdom of Ra-Hur-Kuit. And this is the different Horus than the Harpocrates that we know. We're pretty familiar with Harpocrates at this point. Also, the mantras and... go back to the Harpocrates Rising. Go to the Goat Riders. Start at the Masonic Goat Riders episode, and then go to the Harpocrates Rising episode. Back to the book. Also, the mantras and spells. The Obe and the Wanga. The Obe and the Wanga, and the work of the wand, and the work of the sword, these he shall learn and teach. Obey and Obey is sorcery practiced in the Caribbean, and Wanga is West African fetish magic. He must teach, but he may make severe the ordeals. The word of the law is Thelema. Who calls us Thelemites will do no wrong, but if he look but close into the word, for there are therein 3 grades, the hermit, and the lover, and the man of earth. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. All right, so he mentioned some tarot cards here. He mentioned the hermit, the lover, and the man of earth. I looked a little bit into the OTO, and these are 3 of their, like this passage said, grades: the hermit, the lover, and the man of earth. And in the man of earth grade, there is I don't know if it's a subgrade. I don't know what the technical term of it is, but it's the magician. So I thought I'd just take a second just to go through. I have the Arthur Edward Waite's pictorial. Oh, what is this? I have pictures in here. What are these? It's so rare I'm surprised anymore. Let's see, though. Yeah, I have no idea who these people are. No, okay. Arthur Edward Waite's pictorial key to the tarot card. So I'm just going to start at the hermit. The OTO or Crowley designed his own cards, and he changed up some of the cards. So I don't know I don't know how this correlates to the Crowley deck, but this was written in 1905, and I don't think his deck was done until after that. So let's just go and see what this says. The hermit. The variation from the conventional models in this card is only that the lamp is not enveloped partially in a mantle of its bearer, who blends the idea of Ancient of Days with the light of the world. So, I mean, that's interesting because it could be the Hadat partially covering Nuit, or Nuit partially covering Hadat. It could also be the emergence of the Aeon of Horus. This whole book, the last chapter makes it painfully clear. This whole book is all about the passing, the coming of this Aeon of Horus. So that light emerging from behind the cloak is interesting. It is a star which shines in a lantern, and I have said that this card is an attainment, and to extend its conception as a figure is seen holding up this beacon on an eminence. Therefore, the hermit is not, as the court of Gibelin explained, the wise men in search of truth and justice. Nor is he or the latter. Explanation proposes as a special example of experience. His beacon illuminates that, quote, where I am, you also may be, unquote. It is further a card which is understood quite incorrectly when it is connected with the idea of occult isolation as the protection of personal magnetism against admixture. This is one of the frivolous renderings which we owe to Alephus Levi, who is no episode of this program. Everybody go back to the Baphomet episode. It has been adopted by the French Order of Martinism, and some of us have heard a great deal of the silent and unknown philosophy enveloped by his mantle from the knowledge of the profane. In true Martinism, the significance of the term philosophy inconnue was of another order. It did not refer to the intended concealments of the instituted mysteries, much less than their substitute, but like the card itself, the truth of the divine mysteries secure their own protection from those who are unprepared. So that's interesting, because if we think about this, the icon of this crowned and conquering child, this age of Horus, Hur par krat. The icon in this particular idiom is Harpocrates. And what's Harpocrates? The god of silence. When you see people doing the hush sign, that's the sign of Harpocrates. He's the one that says keep quiet. He's probably rightly so, the reason why these secret societies, some of these secret societies, not the Freemasons, I'm not saying that, like I said, go back to the Goat Rider episode, listen all the way through before you start throwing rocks at me. But this is why some of these secret societies ride goats, is all about this Harpocrates character, I think, in my humble opinion. Alright, so I'm not going to do them all, but let's find the lover. Let's do the lover card. I need a lover that won't drive me crazy. I need a lover who won't break my heart. Card 6 of the Major Arcana, the Lovers. The sun shines at the zenith, and beneath is a great winged figure with arms extended, pouring down influences. In the foreground are two human figures, a male and a female, unveiled before each other, as if Adam and Eve, when they first occupied the paradise of the earthly body. Behind the man is the tree of life, bearing 12 fruits, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil is behind the woman, and the serpent is twining around it. The figures suggest youth and virginity, innocence and love before it is contaminated by gross material desire. This is in all simplicity of the card of human love, here exhibited as parts of the way, the truth, and the life. And it replaces by recourse into the first principles, the old card of marriage, which I have described previously, and their later follies, which depicted man between vice and virtue, and the very high sense the card as a mystery of the covenant of the Sabbath. The suggestion in respect to the woman is that she signifies that attraction towards the sensitive life, which carries within it the idea of the fall of man, and she is rather the working of the secret law of providence than a willing conscious temptress. It is through her impued lapse that man shall arise ultimately, and only by her can he complete himself. The card is therefore in its way another limitation concerning the great mystery of womanhood. Well, fucking A, brother. The old meanings fall to pieces of necessity with the old pictures, but even the interpretations of the latter, some of them were of the order of the commonplace, and others were false in symbolism. So this doesn't strike as many chords with me as the Hermit did. However, And I'll get into this a lot in the next chapter, because the next chapter we're going to be dealing with a bunch of tarot cards. But this one, so the idea is that the first chapter is Nuit's chapter, and the second chapter is the chapter of Hadit. So the male and the female, the female and the male principle, and the third chapter is the chapter that deals with the coming of the Aeon of Horus, the Crowned and Conquirng Child. So it makes sense to me that the Lover card makes an appearance here, because it certainly is going to make an appearance in the next chapter. It'll be interesting to see if it shows up in chapter 3. Because I don't know offhand if it does. I'm not going to get into this Magician card. I probably should, right? God damn it. Alright, so we'll just pretend that the man of the earth in this chapter is the Magician card. So let's just see what it has to say. Hold on. I must have passed it up. Here we go. Card 1 of the Major Arcana, the Magician. A youthful figure in a robe, the Magician, having the countenance of divine Apollo, with the smile and confidence and shining eyes. Above his head is the mysterious sign of the Holy Spirit. It's a infinity sign. The sign of life and an endless cord forming the figure 8 in a horizontal position. About his waist is a serpentine cincture. It's a serpent appearing to devour its own tail. That's called Ouroboros. But this, I don't know. I'm not going to get too far into this whole thing. This is a familiar to most conventional symbol of eternity, but here it indicates more specifically the eternity or attainment of the spirit. In the Magician's right hand is a wand raised towards heaven, while his left hand is pointing towards earth. This dual sign is known in the very high grades of institutionalized mystery. It's as above, so below. Come on. And it shews the descent of grace and virtue and light, drawn from the things that are derived to things below. The suggestion throughout is therefore the possession of the communications of the powers and the gifts of the spirit. On the table in front of the Magicians are the symbols of the 4 tarot suits, signifying the elements of natural life, which lie like counters before the adept, and he adapts them as he wills. Beneath are roses and lilies, changed into garden flowers to shew the culture of aspiration. This card signifies the divine motive in man, reflecting God, the will and the liberation of its union. Well, that rings a little tiny bell, right? The will and the liberation of its union with that which is above. It is also the unity and individual being of all planes in its very high sense. It is the thought and the fixation thereof, which further reference to what I have called the sign of life and its connection to the number 8. This is gematria and Kabbalism. It may be remembered that the Christian Gnosticism speaks of rebirth in Christ as a change, quote, unto the Ogadode, unquote. The mystic number is termed Jerusalem above, and the land flowing with milk and honey, and the Holy Spirit, and the land of the Lord, according to Martinism. 8 is the number of Christ. All right, enough with the tarot cards. Let's get back into this thing. Yeah, I'm going to get right back into it for 2 more lines. The word of sin is restriction. O man, refuse not thy wife, if she will, O lover, if thou wilt depart. There is no bond that can unite the divided but love, and all else is a curse. Accursed, accursed be the aeons, hell. Let it be the state manyhood bound and loathing. So with all that, with thy all. Thou hast no right but to do thy will. Do that, and no other shall say nay. So here's the last thing, and this is what I was talking about, about the, about Mark Passio's take on Thelema. And the Thelema is this religion of love. Because I think that they talk about love. This book talks about love at all. But this seems to me as a simplification of this scale. You know, it seems to me like you're going to fall into one of these, like, remember Patrick Swayze and Donnie Darko, where it's like, is it love or is it hate or is it fear? Is it love or is it fear? And they're pitching all these, like, more complicated concepts at them, and the kids all know that the right answer is either love or fear. But Donnie Darko's like, this doesn't make any sense. There's more emotions than this. The spectrum is far wider than this. And, you know, you can love something and it can lead to terrible things. Love can lead to dark, very dark places. Would you say, to have good intentions with something is love, or is it fear? Well, no, to have good intentions for something would be love, right, Patrick Swayze? Well, see, the road to good intentions leads also to hell. So, you know, when I listen to this guy talk, it really bugs me. So I took a second out of all of this to just dig up some stuff so I could talk about Aleister Crowley and Friedrich Nietzsche. This comes from a website called the Thelemic Union, dateline December 4th, 2017. I'm going to cut down just to it. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But I didn't know that Crowley mentioned or named Nietzsche as a prophet of Thelema. I didn't know that. So do you think that nihilism is on the scale, is on Patrick Swayze's scale? Is it on the scale of love or is it on the scale of fear? You know, I don't know. Passio seems to think that it's on the scale of love. And that might be true. It might be on the scale of love, but that's not to say that it's not the Ubermensch. That's not to say that it doesn't have to do with nihilism and the killing of one's God and oblivion. All right, let me get into this. In general, Crowley sympathized with Nietzsche's assessment of Christianity as a slave morality. He wrote, quote, "I agree entirely with Nietzsche that Christianity is a formula of the servile state. True aristocracy and true democracy are equal its enemies." I don't know. So is democracy love on Patrick Swayze's scale, or is democracy fear on Patrick Swayze's scale? Well, I have an answer that might shock you. In my ideal state, everyone is respected for what he is. There will always be slaves, and the slave is to be defined as he who acquiesces to be a slave. That's from Confessions, chapter 60. Crowley also writes, quote, "The book of the law announces a new dichotomy in human society. There is a master and there is a slave." So what is a slave? Is a slave on Patrick Swayze's scale? Is a slave love or is a slave fear? I don't know. What Crowley is saying is it could be love or it could be fear. What he's saying is you select your own station. If you're not cool with being a slave, fix it. Get out of it or die. But if you choose to be a slave, you're choosing to be a slave. The noble and the serf, the, quote, lone wolf, and the herd, the master, roughly denotes the able and adventurous welcome responsibilities. The, quote, slave, unquote, his motto is, quote, safety first, unquote. With all that this implies, race, birth, breeding, etc., are important but not absolutely essential factors. Nietzsche may be regarded as one of our prophets, Crowley said in Magic Without Tears, Chapter 48. Also, Chapter Without Tears, Magic Without Tears, Chapter 70, quote, area or common morality. This is a code of the slave gods. They are very thoroughly analyzed, pulverized, deloused by Nietzsche in Antichrist. If consists of all but the meanest vices, especially envy, cowardice, cruelty, and greed. How would you describe our current culture? If you look around, bullying, what does that mean? Envy, cowardice, cruelty, and greed. Full disclosure, people, I'm not a Crowleyist. I'm not a Thelemite, but this stuff just tickles me. Back to the article. Quote, Christianity has fallen, and so has Christ, has already become the devil to such thinkers as Nietzsche and Crowley. That was a note in Crowley's translation of Eliphas Levi's The Key of the Mysteries. That's on the list, too. I think Eliphas Levi's Key of the Mysteries is on the thing. It's also The Paradox is on there too. So we'll be doing episodes on that. Quote, kindness and conscientiousness and altruism are really drawbacks to the progress of humanity. As Nietzsche has said this, I too agree with him. There is little more to be said. That's in Liber 888. So I don't know, is conscientiousness on the scale, on Patrick Swayze's scale of love, or is it hate? Is altruism on the scale? Is it love or is it hate? No. From Crowley's knowledge of Nietzsche, we can guess that he has at least read The Gay Science, Beyond Good and Evil, and The Antichrist. As I mentioned, the Antichrist by name in the above quotations and essentially mentions Beyond Good and Evil in the following commentary to Liber LXV V3 verse 37. O ye that are beyond, oh boy, I didn't practice this one. Aor Munsdi and Aoramias, blessed are ye unto the ages. Here comments in Purgeon Theology, the principles of good and evil. Nietzsche and in our own doctrine express in many ways in many places. Crowley mentions Nietzsche when he writes regarding the ethic of Thelema and going beyond good and evil. I was asked one time about Crowley and Christianity, or Crowley and the devil, and I was like, I think that Crowley would say, oh, that's too new. The devil is too new. You know, he's dealing with stuff older than the Judeo-Christian structure of God and of the devil and of Jesus. He's working here. What I'm talking about is he's working on a morality that's beyond good and evil. So when Marpasio says, you know, Crowley was just a drug addict who was channeling a angel or whatever, I'm like, what fucking planet are you actually from? You know, listen to the I'm losing listeners by the second. Listen to the Lesser Key of Solomon episodes, you know, and tell, okay, just forget about it. So Crowley mentions Nietzsche when he writes regarding the ethics of Thelema and going beyond good and evil. In 1919, my main idea had been to found a community on the principles of the Book of the Law, to form an archetype of a new society. The main ethical principle is that each human has his own definite object in life. He has every right to fulfill his purpose and none to do anything else. Is that on the scale of love or fear? Listen to what he just fucking said. Okay, back to it. It is the business of the community to help each of its members to achieve this aim. In consequences, all rules shall be made and all questions of policy decided by the applications of this principle to the circumstances. We have thus made a clean sweep of all of the rough and ready codes and conventions which have characterized past civilizations. Such codes, besides doing injustice to the individual, fail by being based on arbitrary assumptions, which are not only false, but insult the moral sense. Their authority rests on definitions of right and wrong, which are unattainable. As soon as Nietzsche and others demonstrated that fact, they lost their validity. That's from Confessions, chapter 87. So I didn't mean to make this into a tirade about Crowley being beyond morality, but I think this was like the first great statement of it in this book. Let me reread it in case you guys forgot why I went off on this tangent. Let it be that state of manlyhood or manyhood. Let it be the state of manyhood bound and loathing. So with thy all, thou hast no right but to do thy will. God damn it. Let me do that again. I'm tripping over this. Let it be that state of manyhood bound and loathing. So withal, thou hast no right but to do thy will. Do that, and no other shall say nay. For pure will, usagate and of purpose, delivered from the lust of results, is every way perfect. The perfect and the perfect are one perfect, and not two, nay, are none. This is 0 equals 2. Not two, nay, are one. The two perfects, perfect and perfect, are one perfect. Not two, nay, they are none. They're 2 and 2 are not one. 2 and 2 joined are not one. They are none. Therefore is a secret key of this law. 61, the Jews call it. I call it 418. All right, so it just kind of goes. But I'm out of time. So we're gonna wrap it up here. I'll put a link to this book in the show notes if you wanna get it and hear the rest of my thoughts. Maybe I'll finish this up and put it on Patreon. I'm not sure. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think of Crowley? What do you guys think of his book? Do you think he's preaching this universal religion of love, or do you think he's some kind of cosmic Bondian supervillain who's ruling the world, or is he just a guy that's got this drunken, drug-addled way of looking at things? Or am I, what do you think? What's your ideas of it? What's your ideas of this philosophy that he has? That's what I'm wondering. Yeah.
Stigmata Studios presents The Scorpion Strikes. In this comic book, a terrorist called the Scorpion is transported to a secret CIA prison. He quickly turns the tables on the guards and administrators and releases the prisoners. A well-armed anarchist called Constituent Zero assembles a team and fights to take the prison back. This story is a dark political action thriller. The Scorpion's actions set the stage perfectly for the Jin Jihad. Available on Indie Planet. Get more info on The Scorpion Strikes, The Jin Jihad, and other titles at stigmatastudios.com. Stigmata Studios presents The Test of the Scorpion. In this comic book, while the Jin Jihad is raging on one side of the city, the terrorist called the Scorpion sets a secondary attack in motion as he obtains a small tactical nuclear bomb. A mysterious, ever-living warrior called Cyrus the Dead Guy steps forward to test the faith of the Scorpion and his lunatic followers. This is an action-adventure story. It's a bit of swashbuckler that wraps up the Jihad stories. Available on Indie Planet. Get more info on the Scorpion Strikes, the Jin Jihad, the Test of the Scorpion, and other titles at stigmatastudios.com.
All right, thank you guys for tuning in. Check out right after this is going to be chapter 2. I don't know exactly when. Then we're going to follow up with chapter 3. Believe it or not, we're going to do it all in one big thing. Oh boy. So thank you guys. This has been the Book of the Law, chapter 1, the Abercast part 1. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Please remember to hook me up on iTunes, rate and review, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Rate and review me, please. That's what I'm saying. Buy some comic books if you want to. There you go. Check out Patreon. I'm trying to get this Books for Soldiers thing rolling out. We could use your help. We could use all the help. We could use it. And I'm going to leave you tonight with Soda Jerk. There's whiskey. What it makes me want to do. Makes me want to fucking fight. Here we go.
In my darling whiskey, she tightened up her grip, and she made me sick that night. I knew that the whiskey would take up my life. Well, I stand a full 2 inches below 5'9", and every guy here wants to take me alive. So I'll take a shot of whiskey and put out their lights. The whiskey will make me wanna fucking fight.